since the start of the league that there was a freshness and there was a vitality to their play, and they were unlucky not to have two narrow defeats in the league. And Championship has been, they've got to this stage, the direct route, but without playing really well. If you analyse their performances, Kerry people are hard to please in the sense they had a very good second half against Tipperary in the first round with 14 men. A brilliant 20 minutes against Limerick where they went 1-15 or 1-12 up. A brilliant first half against Cork. And just a mediocre performance against Limerick where they did enough to win. So, look, they've got, in a way, the wake-up call was even last Sunday in the hurling where, Tipperary, raging hot favourites, everyone says you're in the final, and, it was a close call, and Kerry people will not be coming overly confident, or they won't be coming cocky or arrogant, but there's a quiet confidence that this Kerry team are hell-bent on, leaving a lasting legacy. A lot of these players, I think, might bow out this year, and they'd like to bow out with an All-Ireland title.
Sure, looking from a Mayo point of view, Colm, I suppose people's views of Mayo are coloured by the 2004 and 2006 All-Ireland final, but they were still producing good teams. It's just on the day, obviously, things unravelled in both of those finals.
Yeah, well, if you look back over the last 20 years, Mayo have been one of the most consistent football counties in the country, and have a tremendous support for the game, and at grassroots level it's a very competitive county, a lot of good club teams, a lot of things are good about Mayo, and a lot of the sort of views of Mayo are coloured by the fact that in finals they have severely disappointed. But when you look at the Cork game, there was a composure about Mayo that game that you don't see too often in Croke Park. But what they have done over the years is they have always tended to throw in one good performance. They've beaten Dublin, they've beaten Tyrone, they've beaten Cork, but they haven't beaten Kerry. So there's a big test to have to slay the giant.
Joe, your thoughts on this one?
Well, I just think that it's the first Mayo team that I've ever seen that's been schooled in the principles of modern defence. James Horan experimented with Ballintubber, brought them to a county title. Their style of play is not liked in Mayo. I was talking to some Mayo supporters out there. But that's a good sign when you come to Croke Park, because it's something that guarantees against a collapse. And against Cork, you saw the way they packed the middle. I think the difficulty is that Kerry are in their element when they come to Croke Park. And myself and my sons were lucky enough to be invited into the Kerry dressing room beforehand by their kit man, Vincey. The atmosphere in there is incomparable. The Gooch's shirt hung up on the thing, and there's just an atmosphere there that they revel in this, that they're in their element. And, needless to say, every single one of them was tipping Mayo.
Yeah, of course they were. All right, first match here, of course.
What do you expect from Mayo?
Expect a fierce battle. They have a bit of momentum after a slow start over in London. They've improved steadily throughout the championship, and obviously the last day was a big win for them against Cork. And we're not exactly sure where we are, because we haven't been tested, I suppose, for the last 7 or 8 weeks. So today we're entering the unknown a little bit, and we won't find out, I suppose, until well into the second half whether we have it or not.
What do you expect from Kerry today?
Everything they've got, I would assume, is what we'll get from Kerry. Look at, everyone knows the story with Kerry, how good they are, the talented forwards they have, and I'm sure after last year, maybe perhaps they feel like they got caught in the quarter-final against Down. They'll be ready and prepared for today, and it's going to be a tough battle, but we're looking to be as competitive as we can for as long as we can.
Thoughts there of Jack O'Connor and James Horan. Well, now next, let's hear from one of those Kerry players who'll be hoping to feature in another All-Ireland final on September the 18th. That's Glencar's Darren O'Sullivan, who has been in fine goal-scoring form this summer and hoping, no doubt, to play his part in the downfall of Mayo today.
Darren O'Sullivan, Glencar has gone for it! What a cracker!
I came into a Kerry setup when you had the likes of Mike Frank still around, Liam Hassett, and you still had the likes of Gooch, Donaghy, Declan, Galvin. These fellas are still around now, and they were very young back then still, so obviously I knew I had to kind of wait my time, kind of learn and learn. So I suppose it's about being patient, really helping out the team as much as you can, and trying to gain on the experience you get from playing with them players in the past.
And the marking is loose on Brian Sheehan. Sheehan for Kerry. O'Sullivan, that was absolutely brilliant. Well, what about that for skill from Darren O'Sullivan?
So you do it, and you kind of hope for the best, to be honest. Like Brian said in his interview after, I think he said he could have hit someone's legs and come out, or I could have easily fallen over it, So it's just one of them things, like you try it, you do it in training, messing, whatever, and just lucky, I suppose, that it didn't hit off anyone and it actually went in the day. So we play Cork so often, sometimes you kind of gets a bit boring, a bit stale. Like, you know, you're talking about the same players. This is something new. We haven't played Mayo in Championship in a couple of years. There are fellas who are getting a bit of stick at the start of the year, and they've built on that, and they've probably stored it and used it as a motivation for every game. And you know, we're under no illusions. Like, once we heard it was Mayo, we were well tuned in, and I'm like, you know, I think the fact is, when you're from Kerry, like, you know, and there is that great history behind you, and you want to be part of that, you know. I've always said, like, you know, I won't base my time with Kerry on years. I can all figure in my head out what I want to get up to in terms of medals. Not there yet, like, you know, you have to base it on medals, because there's no good having 2s and 3s and 4s in Kerry, because there's fellas with a lot more than you.
And that's the thoughts of Kerry corner forward Darren O'Sullivan. Joe Brolly, just looking at that forward division, the interesting thing is, I've been reading articles during the week about how Kieran Donaghy has been a bit quiet, and the Gooch hasn't seen too much of the ball either, you feel?
Well, he's the greatest player of his generation. You know, I think that in a way he just sort of took over where Peter Canavan left off, and may in fact turn out to have been a better player in due course. And he's better in the air, and he never gets injured and things like that. But he's been starved of the ball. I'm sure he must be frustrated. The last 2 games he scored a point from play, and we've seen him leading his club, you know, to an All-Ireland final, very unlikely circumstances, and the way he can play. And of course the great thing about him is that he's not just a finisher. You know, he's a brilliant creator of scores for others. Almost every time he gets the ball, he conjures a score. The big problem that Kerry have in that regard is that the two O'Sullivans, good and all as they are both solo runners. Darren O'Sullivan puts his head down and goes in solo runs. Declan O'Sullivan, because he's powerful and can break the tackle, comes in long solo runs out of the defence, which will be meat and drink for teams like Dublin and Donegal, who are setting up systems in advance. The ball needs to be kicked. And I mean, you can see Cooper's frustration. I mean, and Pat made we were talking to Pat beforehand about it, myself and Pat, and he was saying that a big reason for that is that they both play for junior clubs, so they're carrying the clubs on their back. You know, give him the ball, stay out of his way. They've been doing that since they were kids, and you can see those habits being replicated out there. So I imagine that Cooper must be very frustrated, because that sort of solo running that worked against Limerick, it's not going to work.
Well, I just wonder, has the issue of captaincy anything to do? Like, is poor form this year? I often think a genius, and he is a genius of a player, are often better to be part of the orchestra rather than the leader.
Yeah, but Pat's shaking his head, so you don't...
Not really. I mean,
it doesn't seem to matter in Kerry who the captain is.
A lot of people will argue that, say, for example, he had a very poor Munster final against Cork, where he didn't score a lot on the scoreboard. Yet that day, Declan O'Sullivan was man of the match. He was in possession of the ball 21 times. And the second player in the field who had the highest number of possessions was the Gooch with 18. So in actual fact, while he wasn't scoring, he was contributing an awful lot in terms of work rate and in terms of linking up with the other colleagues.
I want to go back down the field a little bit with Kerry, Pat, and look at the Kerry defence. Now, there's been talks about the Kerry defence that it's not as good as it has, and yet when you look at the names there, Tomás O'Shea, Brosnan, Nathan O'Mahony, Thomas, etc. and so forth.
You're looking at experience. You're looking at experience. You're looking at bucket loads of All-Stars, All-Ireland medals. You're looking at fellas. If you look at statistics, they've conceded 4 goals in 4 matches, but statistics sort of lie. They conceded 3 goals in this game against Limerick in the semi-final.
And the game was over.
Yes, the game was over, but at the same time, it highlighted the deficiencies in this Kerry defence, that, you know, 5 guys over 30, that there is a distinct lack of pace, number one, and when you run at the Kerry defence, that they're susceptible, and you have Owen Brosnan playing centre half back, who's not a natural defender, and you find him caught out of position. Now, I've showed 2 clips here in the Munster final.
So then it's the first of this year's All-Ireland football semi-finals, and the fans and of course the teams are here from the West Coast to Croke Park today for the first of this year's semis. Who'll be back again in a month's time? Mayo and Kerry both out onto the field here at Croke Park. Throw in at 3:30. Now, a little while ago we heard from Kerry forward Darren O'Sullivan. Next we're going to hear from a man who was central to Mayo's cause this summer. The captain of the side. He led the county to the Connacht title last month. Now he'll be hoping to lead them out again on football's big day in September.
They're in the semi-finals. They've beaten Cork in the championship for the first time since 1916.
When the draw was made, you know, everyone was looking upon Cork after their demolition of Down as being, you know, the team to beat this year. I think we were quietly confident. You know, we battled hard in our last 3 games, and we've used our squad very wisely. And you know, we've a lot of lads on the bench that can definitely come in and make a difference. We've learned from past experiences where the county goes into overdrive after one good performance, but to be honest, James and James Nallen and the rest of the backroom team know the pitfalls that a lot of players can fall into, and they're very shrewd operators in terms of that. And we definitely will be focused wholeheartedly on the performance and not the sideshows that go with it. I suppose Kerry, over the past decade, have really reached the top, and there's this huge amount of medals within the squad, and that's what we strive for. And I suppose if you stand back and you admire some of the Kerry footballers, then they will absolutely destroy you. So we'll have to meet them head on. And I suppose as long as you have belief and you're committed to what we want to achieve, then we're at a chance. And I suppose Kerry, with their pedigree and their history and their background, will definitely fancy their chances against us. But I suppose this is a different bunch of Mayo lads.
And that, of course, is the Mayo captain, Alan Dillon. And
Mayo is the complete footballer, in my opinion, even though playing at full-back, I think, curtails his skill somewhat. I think Few read the game as well as him, and Few again can match it to the boys in the studio talking about Andy Moore, and to me he's been Mayo's man of the all year, and in fact over the last.
Kerry will attack Hill 16 in the first half. That was their choice. No wind, and we're underway in the first All-Ireland senior football semi-final. Kerry, the huge favourites, Owen Brosnan onto it immediately. Here's Tomas O'Shea. Struggled all week with a hamstring injury. Kieran O'Leary way out in front of his marker, Donica Walsh. Mayo want to guard against a Kerry blitz early on, and here's Darren O'Sullivan through. O'Sullivan! Just wide. From Darren O'Sullivan inside the first 22 seconds, Mayo were cut apart.
Absolutely cut apart. Great movement from Kerry that time. Darren O'Sullivan straight through. Great goalkeeping, though, it must be said, from Robert Henley. Came out, narrowed the angle, put pressure on Darren O'Sullivan. Took the pass that time magnificently from Cooper. Should have scored it, though, but credit Henley for.
Kniff. Now Donica Walsh has got free, and Kniff trying to get back at him. Cooper could be in here. Difficult angle for Colin Cooper, and it's come off the post. McLaughlin couldn't get a hand on it, but Keith Higgins can, and Mayo time in Kerry. End of Varley having a big battle with Tom O'Sullivan already. Varley of Mayo, head down, shoots and scores. First point of this All-Ireland semi-final, and they have had to soak up an unbelievable amount of pressure, but Mayo lead in Croke Park in the 6th minute.
Yeah, that was a great counter-attack by Mayo that time, and full credit to Enda Varley. What a difficult ball. Took the...
He has been prominent as well. Feeney marking him, that's down low towards Kieran Donaghy. He lets it off to O'Sullivan, they've got a gap again. Darren O'Sullivan, good save. He was trying to trip it over Henley. He was out quickly. Kieran O'Leary for Brian Sheehan. Declan O'Sullivan, Anthony Marr, 3 men popping up. More and more. Tomas O'Shea for Kerry, looking for their first score. And he's got it too. That's a lovely point. Took them a while to sort of figure out the problem, but they got Tomas O'Shea free and were level 7.5 minutes in.
Yeah, the old dog for the hard road. Tomas O'Shea knew what was needed and nearly scored from them. But just watch Henley again, hit him straight in the head. But that's a second very important save he has made.
And Varley made good contact with that. Nicely done. And Mayo lead by 2 points to 1. Loughlin from Knockmore lets it go towards Andy Moran, who's gone it full forward. Moran teasing O'Shea. Moran still going. Moran! Good save by Brendan Keeley, the Kerry goalkeeper. No problem for Killian O'Connor. Midway through the first half, Kerry's second point. Alan Dillon, very prominent as we knew he would be for Mayo. Kevin McLaughlin, ditto. Killian O'Connor drifting out and bringing Killian Young with him. They go a different route. Donald Vaughan has made a really good run forward, the centre-back. Now they've got to cover him. Vaughan gets the shot away. A brilliant score from Donald Vaughan. There is something very different about Mayo today in a big game in Croke Park, just as there was against Cork a few weeks ago. But Kerry just didn't spot it. They weren't quick enough. Vaughan was 4-2 Mayo. For Donaghy, Cafferty there with him. He's not giving him an inch. Higgins got around, but now it's come to Declan O'Sullivan. Darren O'Sullivan from a tricky angle, trying to draw it in. That's a really fine score. Great score from Darren O'Sullivan. Mayo thought they had enough pressure on Kieran Donaghy, but Darren O'Sullivan had other ideas. A point behind Kerry are.
That's a sweet point from Darren O'Sullivan. He had to work very hard to get that one. Both Kevin McLaughlin and I think it was Keith Higgins put immense pressure on him, but the good player that he...
Not going to be rushed at all. Cillian O'Connor has got one already, and now he's got two. Colin Cooper. Owen Brosnan. There's a bit of space there for Brosnan. Steadies down, shoots, and scores.
Yeah, that's a lovely score that time from Brosnan. He came up, you remember, late in the game against Cork and scored a magnificent point. That time, just waited his time, came off the shoulder, and that's a fabulous score from...
Kieran O'Leary. Donica Walsh. Tomas O'Shea. There's Aidan O'Shea with him. Kieran Donaghy being forced to shoot from distance. That looks good. It looks really good. It's a fantastic score from Kieran Donaghy. Level for the second time, and that's what they're going to have to do against the Mayo defensive system, but better, much better from Kerry.
Much more patient, much better, but once again, Tomas O'Shea is up there in attack to give that little bit of leadership, that little bit of direction, and to free Donaghy in a position where he likes to shoot from. Great Kerry score.
They've had more of the ball, more of the opportunities. Here's Declan O'Sullivan. Colin Cooper. Cooper for Kerry. Kerry lead for the first time.
Yeah, very simple combination that time. O'Sullivan showed very well for the sideline ball from Cooper, for the free from Cooper, and Cooper just did the necessary with his right foot. That was too soft, too simple, but a good Kerry score.
3 points.
Should leave a point from his right, you know, from the side that he likes kicking from.
It's a tricky one. Stole a yard or two, and they've stolen a bit of a march on Mayo. 4 successive points from Kerry, and they lead by 7 points to 5. That's a really good free.
Yes, well struck free, but as you said, Darrell, Mayo haven't...
He did miss one earlier on, wasn't it, from the 45-metre line, but never going to miss from there. 1 minute to be added on. They're only 3 behind Mayo, but the way the match has gone in the last few minutes, they could do with a score right now. Andy Moran. What about this from Moran? That is stunning. What a fabulous point. They needed that. They're back to within 2 points of Kerry. It sort of stems the tide a bit. Brilliant point.
That's stunning point, a real skyscraper of a point that time from Andy Moran. The 2 experienced players putting their hands to the till that time, or to the tiller I should say that time. Dillon giving the assist, Moran finishing it off. That's a wonderful score.
And there...
And Colin O'Rourke and Joe Bradley. Pat, you're leading the match, but it's tough going.
Yeah, it's been a very disappointing first half, you know. Defences have dominated. 5 points scored from play in total, and 3 of those points came in the last 5 minutes. Kerry, after 7 minutes, I wrote the score should have been Kerry 2-2, Mayo no score. So Mayo got the start that they wanted by holding Kerry. Kerry didn't get the start they wanted. Mayo have set up defensively, and it's taken a long time for Kerry to break down that defence. The ball into Donaghy and Gooch is very poor. The work rate from the 3 or 4 forwards, Donaghy and Gooch, is quite poor. The half-forwards are playing too deep, and that means that when the ball goes up, there's no support for Donaghy and Gooch. So, look, Mayo have played well, they've tackled well, but...
We talked about this, Pat, before the match. This year, Kieran Donaghy and Colin Cooper, because these 2 guys are deadly normally.
Yes, they are. Now, I don't know if you're going through a bad spell of football. I think confidence is low. And Donaghy, after 10 or 15 minutes, is complaining to the referee about frees he should get. I felt their work rate was quite poor. And you know, when you see Gooch getting a shot blocked down, that's a rarity. When you see Gooch missing frees, that's poor. So look, they're not playing well. They're not firing on all cylinders. Kerry at 40-50% and deserving the lead against the Mayo team, who probably need to improve more in their attack.
How do you see it, Colin?
Well, I think Mayo have set out their stall to do what they're doing, and they've done it quite successfully. So, you know, full marks to them for the defensive nature. After that early blip, you know, Kerry went out to blitz them. It was very clear Darren O'Sullivan should have stuck two in the net. But, you know, things have worked reasonably well from a Mayo point of view, but they're not as good a team as Kerry. I think that's become increasingly obvious as the game went on. They were leading by 2 points, I think, after about 23 minutes. Kerry have got 5 points in the last 12 minutes of the half. And there were signs too that the Kerry backs were beginning to get the grips with the Mayo forwards, who looked very lively early on. The problem for Kerry is that the likes of Declan O'Sullivan hasn't come into the game, or Darren O'Sullivan, and Donaghy is having a really, really poor game. Fair play to Jerry Cafferty, the Mayo full-back, who's done very well, and the Mayo matchups at the back have done reasonably well.
It may not always be obvious to see from the television, Joe, but the strategy that Mayo have put out with bringing Kevin McLaughlin back from the half-forward line as a kind of a sweeper.
You know, I couldn't disagree more with Pat's analysis of the game. I mean, apart from the fact that Kerry ought to have got the 2 goals early on, you know, since then, Mayo have dictated the shape of the game. McLaughlin has played as a full-time sweeper in front, just behind his centre half-back. So it's been very, very difficult for Kerry. Mayo were allowing Kerry to take short kickouts, they're allowing them to move the ball up the field, but then they're hitting the defensive phalanx. It's very, very difficult. And I've noted down here, I mean, myself and Colin were talking about this. I've written beside nearly every Kerry point, brilliant point, under severe pressure. And it's difficult to sustain that over the course of 70 minutes.
So what part are you disagreeing with, Joe?
I think that Colin Cooper's work rate has been magnificent. He has tried and run all over the pitch, but it is difficult because they're isolated. Because Kerry's half-forward line are being dragged out the field. Basically, they're playing the game on Mayo's terms. And you've got to agree, absolutely. Their frees were nerveless. They've been very, very calm, and they're in a good position.
When you look at the possession stats for that game, you have to say Mayo did very well. They operated with 43% of the possession, Kerry with 57%, and there's only 2 points in it. So for Kerry this game will probably go down to the wire, because certainly Mayo but I think maybe, and Mayo's defensive system is excellent, and their use of a sweeper, Kevin McLaughlin, is excellent as well. But then at the same time, you ask yourself the question, and who have you left free? You have left Kerry's least natural defender, a fellow who's susceptible to defending, Owen Brosnan, and you left him free in a roving role coming forward, which is playing into Brosnan's hands. Right. So sometimes you wonder, yes, a great defensive system, but let's be a bit more positive, and let's make the Kerry defenders work a little bit more, which they're not making them work at the moment.
Mayo need to get McGarrity onto midfield, and we'll probably see Galvin for Kerry, so it'll get more interesting.
That may be the case, but there are no changes in either team as we get ready for the second half. Let me hand you back to Darren.
It breaks towards Colm Cooper. Tom Caniff there with it. Unorthodox and very effective pick-up from Cooper. Caniff wanted a free. Now Declan O'Sullivan arriving late. Declan O'Sullivan for Kerry. Still going. Dragged back. Here's Kieran O'Leary. Goes at the fist and takes the point. First of the second half. Kerry by 9-6. It could have been worse for Mayo.
Yeah, Declan O'Sullivan came through that time. He was going to shoot there, but good defending by Mayo. Alan Freeman back in the defensive situation. Percentages played by O'Leary.
Nicely done. That's a very good score from Brian Sheehan. And daylight opens up between Kerry and Mayo. A 4-point lead now.
Yeah, that's a beautifully struck.
Moran lets it in. Here's McLaughlin coming through. Just wouldn't sit up for him. McLaughlin still going. Dragged back. Here's Vaughan. A snapshot from Vaughan, and Mayo's first point of the second half. Could have been more. McLaughlin, there was half a chance that he could get in one-on-one with Keeley.
Yeah, great work by McLaughlin, and once more we have Donald Vaughan charging forward.
Down to the ground, just how fit is he? Trevor Mortimer. The training bib is gone. They'll bring Galvin in at the next opportunity. Andy Moran has got a lot of space on Mark O'Shea. Moran turns back and again, just as he did in the first half. Moran, great score for Mayo. 2 in a row. 10-8.
Yeah, well, that was a fantastic crossfield ball that freed up Andy Moran that time. But once more we see an exhibition of skill.
Darren O'Sullivan using those soccer skills again to great effect. Aidan O'Mahony. O'Sullivan's on it again for Kerry. Switches it across towards Cooper. Caniff committed himself too early. Colm Cooper for Kerry. Great score. It's all lifted a gear again.
that's absolutely delightful by Cooper. Great contest with himself and Tom Caniff that time. Cooper just wins the break expertly and gets onto his left foot. Beautiful score from Cooper.
Listen to the reaction around Croke Park. Brian Sheehan. Galvin running through. He's been marked at the minute by Trevor Mortimer. Here comes Colin Cooper. Galvin is free. Galvin for Kerry. He's only on the park about a minute. Talk about an impact sub. Galvin is fit and up to the pace already.
Certainly he announces his arrival at that time. Great run forward, takes the pass, shoots the point, took a right belt to just watch the elbow coming back here. Although no, there wasn't an awful lot in that, I don't think. Threw the elbow back, but I'm not sure if he made the contact with it that Paul Galvin seemed to indicate.
May get a look at it from another angle. And we have a scrum, and Darren O'Sullivan down injured, a Mayo player down injured as well. Huge amount of tension. Kerry lead by 4. 3 championship matches. Darren O'Sullivan will be mad keen to continue. He's winded. Here's what happened.
Yeah, he got a knee in the rib cage that time, I think, from Keith Higgins. The ball was in there, maybe going looking for the ball, but definitely he got a knee in the rib cage. Whether it was intentional or not, I don't know, but he definitely got a knee in the rib cage.
Mayo's composure being tested right to the limit now. Anthony Marr of Kerry for Kieran O'Leary, who again is out in front of his man Richie Feeney, giving him a lesson at the minute. Here's Colin Cooper away from Caniff. Excellent point from Kerry. That was a little easier. Ball was moved faster. It's 13-8.
Yeah, bad mistake by Mayo that time. Alan Freeman badly misplaced his place kick. I think it was the midfielder Anthony Maher intercepted it. 2 good passes. Cooper.
It's about 50 metres away for Brian Sheehan. No wind around Croke Park. The sun out. Beautifully struck. That's a corker from Brian Sheehan. It's a big... Tomas O'Shea. Declan O'Sullivan. Lovely little pass from Tomas O'Shea, and O'Sullivan got the shot away before the challenge could come in. It's come off the post. Donaghy's in after it. That was brilliant from Kieran Donaghy. The power in that, it sat up nicely for him.
Yeah, this long-range shot came off the post. Just Ger Cafferty and Donaghy just watched it. Donaghy just that little bit more alert. Well scored.
Sort of pushed in there by the introduction of Paul Galvin. Here's Brian Sheehan. And now Killian Young coming forward. There's a gap there for Killian Young. Kieran O'Leary on the left boot. Kieran has managed to hang it in there. Kerry just pulling away.
Yeah, they're starting to overwhelm Mayo in every area of the field at the moment, particularly around the middle 8, around midfield, half forward line, half back line. Mayo are just not getting their hands on the ball and finding it very difficult to manoeuvre it upfield.
Keith Higgins. Alan Dillon. He's one of the guys they really need to steer them back into this game. Here's another one, Andy Moran. Andy Moran for Mayo. Good stop by Keeley. Keeley has denied him again. They needed a goal right there. They may still get one. O'Connor for Mayo. Oh, fantastic goal! They needed a goal, and Killian O'Connor has given it to them. Andy Moran denied, first of all, by the save from Brendan Keeley, but O'Connor had no right to score from there. Very little to shoot at. It's a stunning goal.
Well, it's a stunning goal, but it's great persistence by O'Connor. That time he had no right to get that ball. He followed up the great save that Keeley made from Andy Moore. Didn't give up, but it got around Galvin, it was, very easily. Got around Killian Young, it was, and absolutely buried it in the corner. That should give Mayo a little bit of encouragement for the rest of the game.
Still a long way back, but a wonder goal from Killian O'Connor, and Mayo are going to switch things again. Aidan Campbell is about to be brought on by James Horan. There he is, wearing 24 from Swinford. It may be Alan Freeman to come off for Mayo. Next score after the goal, important, Darren O'Sullivan. Has the beating of Higgins pace-wise. He's the beating of most pace-wise. Cooper's in after it. Henley there. It breaks through. Here's Colin Cooper. Cooper for Kerry. Oh, brilliant! What an amazing goal from Colin Cooper. He absolutely buried that. For a moment, it seemed he was going for a point. But Henley didn't even see this as it whistled by. Next score after the goal was important. It's a Kerry goal.
Yeah, just poor communication that time between Tom Cunliffe and Robbie Henley. Cooper just picks up the pieces and blasts it to the roof of the net. That's wonderful opportunism for Colin Cooper, but that could have been prevented with a little bit more communication in the goal mouth in the first instance. But you have to credit Colin Cooper with the wonderful finish.
He's been quiet in some of the other games, but he's back. Here's Keith Higgins. Loves to get forward when he can. 8 points in arrears. He's 2 from 2 with the freeze. 3 from 3. Brings a bit of a reaction from the Mayo followers here in Croke Park to Kevin McLaughlin. Alan Dillon. Doherty and Moran in waiting. It's come to Andy Moran, who was fouled by Mark O'Shea. They've got on with it quickly. Here's Vaughan for Mayo! Oh, it's gone over the bar. They needed a goal, but they'll take the point. There is still time, 10 minutes to go.
Great thinking that time, it must be said. Great thinking by Moran to McLaughlin, to Vaughan on the overlap, but he'll be disappointed.
They've created 29 scoring chances, Kerry, to Mayo's 22, but Mayo might get to create number 23 here. Here's Aidan O'Shea again taking it into traffic, but he barrels his way through. O'Shea for Mayo, has a free man inside him, but brilliant from Owen Brosnan. There was a Mayo man about that. Aidan Campbell taking the shoulder. Here's Killian O'Connor. O'Connor launches it towards Moran, and Moran has got it for Mayo. Andy Moran! Off the upright.
That's the third or fourth time that Andy Moran has got the ball in 50-50 situations with Mark O'Shea. Maybe just rushed it a little bit. Took a shot just off the corner. I think the angle of the bar and the post. Well, that was a very, very good opportunity for us.
To be 1 or 2 more twists in this All-Ireland semi-final. Lee Keegan steadies down, and Keegan, under no pressure, slots that over.
Got the opportunity, they made their, the chances that they got count, and they fully deserve to be in the, having the lead that they have at the moment.
Colin Cooper slow to take responsibility for the free, but at this stage they're not too bothered about it. He's put it over the... Daniel Bohan on it. Here is Barry John Keane. Daniel Bohan. Fouled by Aidan Campbell. James O'Donoghue, Colin Cooper. Seamus Scanlon in so much space. McLaughlin scrambling back to try and make a challenge. Scanlon can put the icing on the cake, and he's done just that. It's done and dusted now. It has been for a while.
It has been for a while indeed, and Scanlon finds acres of space that time, drifts forward, scores a good point.
Barry John Keane of Kerry. Donald Vaughan fouled them. 120 a game. There's no pressure at all on Cooper, and they're a point off that average. 119 to 111. Colin Cooper with a personal tally of 1-7 in this All-Ireland semi-final. Here's Paul Galvin, made a big impression when he came in. Aidan O'Mahony there, should he need him. Galvin steadies down, and he's got in on the act now. And there is that 120 tally. Brilliant second-half performance from Kerry. 120 to 111, and Paul Galvin with his point, and the 3 minutes of added time are done, and it's Kerry who head into yet another All-Ireland senior football final. It'll be against either Dublin or Donegal. We'll know that barring a replay next Sunday. Mayo gave it everything, and they gave time. They win by 120 to 111.
Dara Maloney and Martin Carney were your commentators for this afternoon's senior football semi-final. Pat Spillane, we don't know yet, obviously, whether Kerry are going to add to this amazing record in All-Ireland finals, but if you're not in it, you can't win it, as they say, and you're in it. We are in it, and you know, it reminded me a little bit of the All-Ireland hurling semi-finals in the sense that both Kilkenny and Tipperary got through without being really convincing, without throwing a brilliant performance. So Kerry will take a lot of positives out of today's game, but they will also look at their half-forward line not playing to the level you'd expect them. They'll look at the way they allowed Mayo 3 goal-scoring chances in the second half. But you know, Michael, at the end of the day, class comes to, cream comes to the top. Mayo were a limited team with a very good defensive system, and they were hard to break down. When you concede possession and territory, to most teams you might get away with it. To a team like Kerry, who have skill and belief and vision, wonderful foot passing, they'll eventually find a way to get through you. And it took them a while, but in the second half, they found a way to get through that Mayo defence. You just can't concede territory and possession. And I said at the start of the game, why would Kerry win? It would be decided by the respective forward lines. Kerry had the better forwards than Mayo. Kerry were averaging 23 points coming into this game. Mayo were averaging 14. What was the final score, Michael? 23 points to 14, a 9-point winning margin, and that sums up the performance, and just the magic of Gooch has to be mentioned. 1 goal and 7 points. In my opinion, I've always said it in the last couple of years, the greatest Gaelic footballer of all time. He's just a genius. He was superb in the second half, there's no doubt about that. Colm O'Rourke, when I was rallying down around this man's part of the country doing the Rally of the Lakes, if you were trying to preserve the engine, you kept the turbo boost at 1 bar. If you were trying to sort of push on, you gave it a switch up to 2. That's what Kerry did in the second half. When they passed our place, it was on the second day, Michael. You were usually out. The first day, you never passed my door in a rally. Anyway, sorry. Something to do with your door, I'd say.
Yeah, well, it was a privilege to be here to see one of the great exhibitions of football by Colm Cooper, one of the great aristocrats of the game. And it was just nice to be here to see him putting on an exhibition for about 15 minutes of skills of the game that very, very few others can do at the moment or have ever done in the past. But Kerry had too much experience. Like, in fairness to Mayo, they tried to create a team more or less overnight. James Horn came in, he put together a new team. They're young, they're inexperienced. They didn't do too badly at all. They exposed a lot of flaws in the Kerry backline too. There was a lot of high balls kicked in the second half, and Mayo had about 4 goal chances. So, Kerry have cruised to the final, yet they have problems at the back still.
Yeah, I mean, Mayo lost their nerve entirely after 7 or 8 minutes the second half. When it went to 4 points, Colm was saying, look, the sweeper's gone now. And once it turned into a shootout, it really looked very much like 2006. And Cooper is so great. I mean, everyone was so delighted.
Can I pull you up on that for a second? Because, in 2006, Mayo were beaten after about 15 minutes. Yeah. But they kept it going here. They were playing against a better team, surely.
I understand that, but, once they abandoned the defensive system, it was only going to be damage limitation at that stage. And it turned it into a shootout against Kerry. I mean, Kerry really opened up. I mean, you can't afford a shootout against these boys. Cooper was so great today.
But you can't have a sweeper.
I understand that. But if you're going to do that, you have to do, like, say, Donegal. You say, right, well, come hell or high water, we're sticking with this and we're going to grind and grind and grind.
But Joe...
But I mean, hold on a second, Pat. I'm just saying that Mayo abandoned that, and once they did that, the game opened up for Kerry. I mean, Cooper... Yeah. Let me make this point about Cooper. Watching Cooper there today, I noticed we were talking beforehand about how great he is, and Pat said he's the greatest player of all time. And it's very difficult to say, and I appreciate that, but certainly of what I've seen. And, everything that he did today, if you put a montage together of that, it's the sort of football that you play in your dreams. My children were sitting out there beside us, and they were just so delighted with it. And it was an absolute adornment on Gaelic football to see him playing today.
You can talk about system, strategies and defensive. And it's a point I've been labouring for years now, that we're too negative in our mindset in terms. You look at Kerry. Kerry are going in to their 8th All-Ireland final in 10 years. They don't get hung up on strategy systems. It's all about skill, belief and producing skillful football.
They're not playing off the cup. They're not playing off the cuff, Pat.
But not every county has a Gooch Cooper.
No, but I mean, let's.
fellas like that.
Why not?
Paul Galvin,
why not you? Yeah, but you look at the Tipperary model today, and you say, "Hold it, God! We've been hammered by Kerry by 40 points in every grade for the last 50 years. So what do? We start developing them at a young age. Start giving them skill. Start giving them belief.
It's about a balance, Pat. I mean, Kerry don't play off the cuff, Pat. I mean, let me give you this example.
The bottom line,
when Kerry went 7 points up, 6 points up, we were looking down. The only player in this half of the field was
But the bottom line, Joe, the bottom line is, the game has never changed over 125 years. The team who puts the team who puts more scores on the board than the opposition still wins.
So
if you produce, listen, Joe,
are you near finished?
Whose judgment do you fall upon?
Well, I think, you know, what you had here today, you have better skillful players from one time. The better individual players will nearly always beat even the best organised team. And Mayo were well organised, but, you know, with 10 minutes gone in the second half, there was no point in holding a sweeper back and trying to keep the score down. They had to go after the game, and they did go after it, and they played with a lot of bravery and a lot of grit, and they didn't fold. But, like, it's very difficult coming up against some of the best players that have ever played Gaelic football, playing together. The composure, the experience, the touch, whether by hand or foot, is just exceptional. And when some of these Kerry players go, I don't care what sort of production line, they will find it very difficult to replace a lot.
Colin is agreeing with me. That's the bottom line.
Let's get the thoughts of the Kerry manager, Tamara.
Jack, congratulations, you're through to another All-Ireland final. Your thoughts on the Kerry performance today?
I suppose we mixed the good with the bad, Claire. I thought early on we were very wasteful with the ball. They played a sweeper back in front of our full forward line. I suppose it caused us problems early on because we turned over a lot of ball that went in there, and most of the difficulty we had came from that. The Mayo counter-attacked well, and you know, kept the ball well, and that was a problem. But you know, midway through the first half, I thought we wised up a bit to that, and we kept the ball better and minded it better. I think once we did that, we looked in control for the most part.
Yeah, I suppose for that period in the second half, your experience really did shine through, and you did very well at just holding on to the ball. Yeah,
well, you know, I suppose Gooch is critical in that regard, because you know he never wasted the ball, and he came out into the mix there and he sprayed the ball around, and that, you know, that was important. But you know, we got good contributions from most of our players right throughout the game, and you know, it was a tough battle. I have to say now that Mayo tackled ferociously, and there were a lot of heavy hits in that game, and that's great for us going into an All-Ireland final, because you know, the two teams left in it, Donegal and Dublin, aren't exactly shrinking violets, and they will tackle very, very hard. So today was a good simulator for that, you know.
Did you feel you needed a contest?
Well, we thought we did, because you know, we've had one game in the last 7 or 8 weeks, and you know, we needed a tough match. You know, questions needed to be asked of us, and I thought for the most part we answered them.
And you can be an interested spectator next week?
We'll see. We might take a ramble up, all right. You know, we feel again we'll have to improve, because you know, the Dublin performance and the Donegal performance, I don't think we'd live with that. But you know, we have a month to prepare, and you know, it's great feeling going back down to Kerry, to be honest with you, having a month to prepare for an All-Ireland final. You know, with the evenings drawing in, and you know, great, you know, support down in Kerry. There was a big Kerry crowd here today, and they really got behind the team. So it's a great month to look forward to.
Okay, Jack, congratulations. Back to Michael.
All right, Claire, we're going to take a short break here on the programme. Stay with us for more reaction to this afternoon's. This year's All-Ireland football final on September the 18th, where they will face either Dublin or Donegal. Now let's hear from Kerry's Paul Galvin, and he's with Claire.
Paul, you looked sharp and eager when you came off the bench. Did you enjoy that?
I did. I enjoyed it. I needed it because it's been a long year, I suppose. When you feel that you're not contributing a whole lot on the field, it's important that when you do get in there, that you make an impact. And I was certainly, well, I had to. That's your job when you're going in, be the starting player or a sub. You're in there to do something, and I felt I contributed my bit today, you know.
Well, you needed it, and I suppose Kerry needed a good contest too, didn't they? Yeah,
we really did. We were delighted, really. We were delighted with how it's turned out, because up to this we probably weren't really put to the pin of our collars to this point of the year, which is very, very dangerous, because the other side of the draw has been very, very competitive, and that really stands to you. I remember in 05, a similar scenario whereby we kind of really coasted to a final and got caught for intensity on the day against Tyrone. So we're delighted Mayo were really good. They tested us out in lots of different ways, you know, particularly physically. They hit us harder now than we've been hitting a while, and but that's good for us, you know.
And they had a few opportunities in front of goal.
They had a bit too many now than we would like to be conceding, really. So you know, that's fine. That's something to work on for us. But certainly, they did open us up at times. But then we kind of expected them to, because I've been impressed certainly with a few of their forwards. Andy Moran's had a great year, and young O'Connor, Killian O'Connor has been really impressive this year. So you know, it was no great surprise to us, really.
Okay, well done today, Paul. Thanks for talking to us.
Thanks.
Yeah, Paul Galvin there. Paul scored a point, 2 points I think in that second half. One of them set up by the Gooch, and the Gooch just helped to open up this gap column in the second half.
Yeah, well, he was like Quicksilver there, and he has dancing feet. And of course, when he's moving, everybody else is looking for the ball, and he nearly always does the right thing. Now, he's magnificent in the air. Like a soaring catch the first half, and here we have, it looks very easy. You know, all these things that he does has the mark of genius about him. And Galvin comes on. Galvin, of course, gets the crowd going both for Kerry and the opposition, and the opposition players seem to feel that they have full licence to hit him as much as they want to, and the ref, you know, let them away with it a little bit today, even though the refereeing quality has been a lot better in the last few games. We must pay compliment
he's
for
just
that.
a perfect footballer, isn't he? Like, he's really
Actually, Jimmy McGee was watching this match with us here. Do you remember his famous commentary, the Diego Maradona goal, different class, when Gooch got this goal?